Let's talk about Chris Paul being waived by the Phoenix Suns. Let's first talk about the Phoenix Suns part of it. Then we'll get to the top three teams that I think he could potentially go to. Let's start with the Phoenix Suns. It's an interesting choice for them to waive him. He's obviously making a lot of money for them, so I think they're eyeing somebody in free agency that potentially could, bring in something that Chris Paul's not potentially bringing. Could be that they want to get younger, and I understand that. D'Angelo Russell and Devin Booker are really good friends, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were trying to bring in him. But the thing with that is that, there's so many balls that can go around. As weird as that sounds. Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and DeAndre Ayton is definitely in play here for Frank Vogel. So I think that D'Angelo Russell will just collide with all that because he needs to guard the ball as well. He's not really somebody who's a pass first point guard. It showed that in Minnesota when he had all those weapons and he couldn't get the ball to him. And I think that that's not a very good fit for him. So whoever it is that they're going for their new point guard, it's not campaign. I know that. So let's hope that they get somebody maybe like a Mike Conley or something that potentially just be a pass first point guard for them that's younger than Chris Paul. So that honestly it saved them a lot of money. So I think it's a good thing for the Phoenix Suns. Let's talk about three teams that he can potentially go to now. Number three is the Chicago Bulls. I think that with Lonzo Ball being injured, I hope he gets well soon. They don't really have a facilitator as a point guard. No offense to Kobe White. I would assume so stretches of it and can definitely learn from a player like Chris Paul going forward. And that would be fantastic for them. But I think that Kobe White's going to be coming off the bench, and Io needs a couple more years to learn. And somebody like Chris Paul that can come in and be a veteran leader for these point guards would be great for the Chicago Bulls. He can set up Zach LaVine. He can set up DeMar DeRozan. He can set up Vucevic if they decide to re-sign him. And they could just generally bring an atmosphere to this team that they haven't really had, and that's veteran leadership. No offense to DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine, but I feel like they need a point guard who's going to bring that veteran leadership, and that's something Chris Paul can do. My number two is the New Orleans Pelicans, and this is just kind of a similar reason to why the Bulls should sign him, but setting up Zion Williams with lobs could be huge for Zion's career, especially if he can stay healthy. Jonas can handle three-point shots. Zion can handle in the paint. Chris Paul could set up both of them. Chris Paul can set up Brandon Ingram. Chris Paul would set up CJ McCollum. A lineup of Chris Paul, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williams, and Jonas Valanciunas would be a fantastic starting five. And then you have Trey Murphy. You have Herb Jones. You have Jose Alvarado. You have all these players off the bench that can be spark plugs on top of that can also be fantastic. And also, Jose Alvarado and Chris Paul are very similar defensively and offensively, that Jose Alvarado could be taught by Chris Paul how to be a good playmaker and help his game develop more that way. So that when Chris Paul retires, Jose Alvarado's right there ready to go, being a pest on defense and having a more offensive developed game that he's learning from Chris Paul. Number one is obviously the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James is going to be recruiting them because they're really good friends. And this is actually a pretty good fit for him as well, I think. He doesn't have to be worried about being a shooter as much. He doesn't have to worry about, that he has to get his points. He can be somebody that can average 9 to 12 points a game and pass the ball, and that's what he's good at. Like, if he wants to, he could potentially just, go for the leaderboard of assists and just keep climbing it and climbing it. I think he's already at 3. So if he can get to 2, he's obviously not getting to Stockton, but he could potentially focus solely on that, not as much on scoring, and his career would still be what it is. Just the aroma of having a Chris Paul on your team is huge. And I think that would be key for this team going forward, especially because you had somebody like D'Angelo Russell who wanted to take his shots. And when his shots were not falling in the postseason, he wasn't really playable because he doesn't play defense. He's not going to be a player that's going to pass the ball. He's going to keep looking for a shot because that's just what he is, a shot first player. And Chris Paul can bring so much more than that if he can't shoot. If his shots aren't going down, he still plays pretty good defense. He still can facilitate and pass the ball around and do that. But a veteran leader like that, who can, even though his shots are down, he can think to himself, oh, I can still do this and I can still do that. I can still pass. I can still play good defense. You know, he can still do those things. And I think that he would be really, really good for this Lakers team on a lower price, I think. A lower price so they could potentially bring in more people around him that could help him, you know, be a good passer. That would be what I would do if I was the LA Lakers. Thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to the Rocky Mountain Sports Network YouTube channel and follow us on social media at Rocky Mountain Sports on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And yeah, thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you all later.